Hello and welcome to Facial Hair Weekly, where we just we're Invisible Walls. I'm here with Daniel Bloodworth,
Hey.
who has some scruff,
Yeah,
and
it's about 2.5 weeks in.
we have a special guest, Joel from The Last of Us.
Yes.
So
I'm great at destroying brain dead people.
fun
Annoyed
guys.
Gamer's back next
They're
week.
And perhaps people can maybe even catch it early if they go to a certain event.
Yes,
don't know.
PAX. Obviously, we've got a great big panel next week. It's a fantastic panel full of absolutely handsome guys. Carl Bosman, Mike Damiani, and myself. We've all got new stuff to show off, and I will be debuting Season 2 of Annoyed Gamer, and I am tackling the issue that I have not tackled for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I've been very quiet about. So...
Awesome.
Moving on.
Can't wait, and we'll be able to see it eventually.
Yeah.
This week's show, we're going to have a lot of people on talking about a lot of different things. But for right now, we're going to be discussing Gamescom, which is, Europe's giant, big gaming convention. It happens in, not Leipzig, sorry, Cologne. Used to happen in Leipzig. Now it's in Cologne. And there's some big news. Basically, the biggest news, I think, came out of Sony with their release date being
November 15th.
a Friday, which shocked some people. And
I
also,
don't understand why that's weird, but sure.
I don't know, people, because there was office pools, I guess. And it was like a month later than everyone was starting to really feel those October dates.
Yeah.
And then how bad Kyle already hit on this a lot, but I was going crazy with how bad their video director was.
Extreme close-up!
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah,
but we won't dwell on that. But before, let's do this slightly chronologically. Blood, I know you kind of were following the Microsoft stuff. I mean, did anything really jump out at you?
Not much. I mean, obviously, they kind of had a smaller conference, and just for the record, like Microsoft usually doesn't do anything at Gamescom in terms of a conference. I want to say like last year or the year before, like they didn't even have a booth. But
At TGS too, they pulled out. Yeah.
But it was, I saw like one good photo of it. It was just like a little tiny room with a stage in the center and like a TV facing each direction. And they just did like a 20-minute thing before they just kind of gave the press a chance to get some hands-on time. The biggest thing that kind of, to make Europe scream was they're giving away
FIFA?
copies of FIFA with all the pre-orders. But, the people have pointed out, like, if you buy a PlayStation 4 and FIFA, it's still cheaper than buying an Xbox One.
Well,
it has the legendary players.
Yeah,
And
but
they'll
that's
have
the
a
difference.
$10 upgrade path, maybe?
But there's not an announcement coming from EA now that FIFA for the PS4 is going to be $400.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's huge.
Wait, what?
I'm
No,
fucking
no,
with you,
you're-
bud.
Okay.
He's been up
good.
so early watching the
Did,
Gamescom stuff.
I mean, okay, as someone who doesn't care about sports games, admittingly, but obviously I know how. I mean, I lived in England for a very brief period of time and would pick up their video game magazines when they came with DVDs, and it would always be like the top 10 reader goal, like people sending in goals, like from FIFA. Like I know it's insane over there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any insight as a expat, Euro expat?
I know they like their football over there. No, it's actually a very smart
I'm pro
move.
packing. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I think packing games are great. I wish they hadn't disappeared.
Yeah.
I'm interested, and
Those
I
aren't
mean,
really
perhaps
pack-in.
Blood, you can sort of like educate me on this. I don't think they announced. Is it actually a pack-in or is it pre-install?
It's while supplies last.
Yeah,
So
I
who knows what
want to
that
say that
means.
it's probably a download, but I'm not sure.
'Cause
They did say, and then there's that question of like, well, can you still pre-order one and get a pre-order in Europe, or is this just going to the people that already have them, and it's just like incentivizing the people that don't realize they can't get one
No,
anymore?
I think Microsoft, they realize they've chopped the number of countries that they're actually shipping Xbox One to in half, despite what some people still believe, that there's no region lock and that you play it in any country. It's only being released now in a certain amount of countries.
Right.
And, they're doing that so they can, I suppose, overload the chains. Very smart move. Overload the retail chain before Christmas. And, yeah, I think it's obviously cost them a truckload of money. I mean, because FIFA was the biggest selling... I think it was like the biggest selling game in the
It's
UK
like
last
Call
year.
of Duty, but for Europe.
Yeah, I mean it's huge and has been every year. So yeah, I think a lot of people will be very happy with that. It kills a lot of birds with one stone. Very smart move. Yeah, well done, Microsoft, and EA are probably laughing all the way to the bank.
I totally agree with that. And really quick, new Fable, I don't care. Dead Rising more Dead Rising. Looks
It's
cool.
not proper Fable.
They talked about Call of Duty getting dedicated
And-
servers, which I mean they've already said that all games are getting dedicated servers. So that was kind of like a kind of bogus announcement.
There's been a lot of double dips on
Yeah.
the news stuff in those kind of regards, like some of that pricing stuff as well. Super quick, do you think we're going to see release date for Xbox at PAX? Or do you think there's going to be just
I
a
don't know.
random?
I mean,
or do you think
I
there's
don't-
just going
I'm
to be
not
a
used to
random
people doing
announcement in the wild?
Yeah, I'm not used to people doing announcements at PAX.
They've premiered games there. I mean, Microsoft's it's in their backyard.
It is in their backyard, but I would find it interesting if Microsoft don't actually turn this into another event.
Yeah, not instead of
they,
stealthing
they're
it.
not going to just going to send out a press release saying,
So-
"Oh, by the way, we're coming out the day before PS4."
That's the next question. Do you think would it be smarter for them at this point to come out a couple days early, or does it really not matter? I mean, they already said they're going to be in November. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I looked it up. The Wii and the PS3 were about 8 days apart.
okay, yeah.
So I think that's about the right time frame. I think it would make more sense to be earlier, just to get the pre-order allocations done with, and then be able to stock up for Black Friday. But I don't know.
Well,
We'll
let's
see.
face it, they're still $100 more expensive. I think they do need to come out. I think ideally for them, my suggestion would be it comes out 2 weeks beforehand, because it gives them a chance to really sort of like pull, a lot of sales in, and maybe take some of that indifferent spending money, especially if they overload, like I said, the retail areas, because they've cut down the number of countries selling it. I was having a conversation with a friend on Twitter, and I did make the snarky remark that they need to come out 2 weeks early so that you can spend 2 weeks updating it,
Oh.
getting everything running, so that by the time the PS4 comes out,
Yeah, my Wii U is
They'll be
almost
working.
operational now.
it almost it's still updating.
Still updating. EA, their typical thing. We're going to show you X amount of games. Obviously, you always have to run out your stuff like your FIFA, your Sims. You got to address that stuff, even though I don't care.
Dungeon Keeper for mobile.
Yeah, that wasn't in the
I
presser.
didn't get to
though.
watch it yet. How interesting, or it probably doesn't look interesting at all to you, but how in depth did the customization for Need for Speed look? Did it look like it's on?
Typical. I mean-
did it look like it's on the same level as Forza, or is it just typical old Need for Speed?
It was kind of just playing in the background when the guy was talking. They went a
Okay.
little Sony there. They did do the demo. I mean, it looked fun. I mean, Need for Speed games always had that kind of pick up and play. I mean, even the run, which I know I liked and you liked, I still think that was like a fun game.
Yeah.
Nothing really stood out to me. And then they're like bringing back undercover cop mode. I was just like, I don't care. I mean, just personally from a Need for Speed perspective, they definitely know where their bread is buttered, though. They spent a lot of time with Battlefield. There was I think we cut out 5 pieces of separate media for that.
And they
some
just
media.
delivered something else today.
I think it's just the same thing,
Yeah.
actually. But I think they realize that this is what matters at this point, and they're seeing how Ghost has been kind of soft, and I think EA's been doing this every year with Medal of Honor, or what was the awful game with the Uncanny Valley people last year?
Oh, that was Medal of Honor Warfighter.
That was Medal of Honor. Okay,
Yeah.
I was thinking the Medal of Honor before that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think Medal of Honor is now synonymous with shit.
yeah, I think Battlefield's definitely the better bet. And they're after that stupid press F to cut lag, and I mean there will be a single player campaign. There'll probably even be some fun in it, but obviously they realize that the multiplayer stuff and that the kind of island attack and the beach battle cruiser on the thing. I'm assuming that's going to be just like the falling building, where it's probably like a one-off objective thing, but still looks cool. Still gets me really interested. They're really good at kind of selling them their stuff.
Judicious use of cinematic, sections, those big WoW events. There's nothing wrong with it. Judicious use. It's just when you have 3 hours of that, and that's the entire single player campaign, it starts to just
they're
get
putting
old.
that into the multiplayer, which
But
is cool.
I mean, adding it to multiplayer, that is, and it's an objective. That is cool. I mean, it reminds me of there was a map in was a Half-Life deathmatch where you would go and you had to hit a button and get to a certain area where the blast shields will fall because a nuclear detonation would happen, and if you weren't in the bunker, everybody else died.
And we didn't talk about it, but that's like Ghost is trying to do. Rohan and Chris went to the Ghost event, and they said they were going to try to make their maps way more interactive. But I felt like in their trailers, just to talk about Ghost for 10 seconds, I felt like every time they were about to show us like destructibility and interactivity, the trailer would cut. And like looking at the gameplay, no, seriously,
Yeah.
like from a different, I don't know. I'm still curious. I mean, Treyarch had messed around with it before with some like destructible like little land bridges and some buttons and zip wires and stuff. But generally, that game's about shooting people
But
in the
is
back.
that a bad thing that they're cutting away from it? I mean, I would much rather discover some of that shit myself day one.
Totally understand, but it's again, it's like seeing the building fall. It's like that's so cool, and then you
Yeah.
find out it's the only building that falls, and you're like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
gonna
Well,
get old.
Killzone had some of those kind of
Killzone looks
cinematic
great. Yeah, let's
stuff.
move to Sony real quick. I'm in the minority where I like Killzone 3's multiplayer 100 times more than Killzone 2's multiplayer. But I'll be an outlier. That's fine. I'm pretty convinced it looks good, and they said all the multiplayer maps will be free down the line. No DLC.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
It's a good way for Sony to kind of carve out. They still don't Killzone has never been their Halo. They still need their kind of little space for their first person franchise, and Resistance I think is DOA at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a given. Rhyme, nice
Yeah.
little surprise there in that indie showcase.
We're having Rob come by to talk about the indie stuff from Gamescom because there was a lot. But yeah, really quick, I think Rhyme is the big standout, and everyone goes, "It reminds me of Wind Waker. It reminds me of Eco." And yes,
You know what
it
else
does.
it kind of reminds me of is The Witness a little bit.
Because of the color scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Did it warm your
I only saw
Grinch heart?
I only saw half the stream, unfortunately, because I had prior commitments with a
Oh, did you miss
doctor's
Rhyme?
appointment. I missed a lot
Check
of
it
stuff.
out.
But the thing I want to ask you guys about is Second Son, Infamous.
They just
Talk to
announced
this
it's coming
guy.
out in February.
Okay,
But they didn't have anything really at the conference.
they didn't, 'cause
They
I
had
was-
a trailer where there was a
destructible
trailer.
environments. Yeah, is that what? Because
I mean, they had that destruction stuff in
so
earlier
nothing
trailers.
new. 'Cause I missed that section.
The thing that they mainly showed, and it's funny because, like, yeah, again with the cutting away, I couldn't follow that trailer the first time it was shown. I had to see it again when they like showed the full trailer to really understand. But yeah, I guess there's a mechanic where kind of like how in Infamous 2, where you like met up with one of those people and got their powers. I think that's like something that you do pretty regularly in this game and probably plays in the morality system because there's this girl with a power and he was arguing about it with somebody like else, and then he like took the girl's power and it made it look like maybe he even killed her by doing that.
Wow. Okay.
So it'll be interesting to actually see how that plays out. I haven't read any like additional commentary other than seeing the trailer itself.
I'm looking forward to February.
Yeah, it's nice to. I mean, and is that the like only like big on the horizon game that we've seen from next gen so far? Like really?
What do you mean by that?
Like I mean, most of the stuff that we've seen is like this is going to be out at launch, but then after launch,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
you know, like we don't really
Well,
know.
we got
what's...
Destiny and Titanfall.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like first party,
Well, yeah.
they haven't really shown much for beyond launch on either side.
Well,
I mean,
I'm
Halo
sure.
is way out in the distance.
I think they just want to get through this Christmas, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Get through this
And
holiday season.
who knows what's gonna not make launch
Right.
or launch window even.
Yeah.
Still angry about Pikmin. And then I was kind of out of it yesterday, but did they ever end up giving a release date for Japan
Not yet.
for PlayStation 4?
Not that
It's
I've
kind of funny.
not that I've seen at least. But they're having some kind of conference on the 9th, I think.
So probably the Japanese one.
pre-TGS, yeah.
I would say Japan, we can probably expect slap bang between US and Europe
Yeah.
because we're looking at the 15th and the 29th. So
We'll see. Yeah.
One thing I thought was kind of silly, Kyle had his little silly call-outs when they were talking about PlayStation Plus and freebies and stuff, and they said, like, games that are above an 80 on Metacritic. And I'm like, so if Drive Club dips below 80, do people not get Drive Club anymore? What is that?
That Drive Club thing is still like bullshit because that's like
It's like
the,
a demo.
The GT, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like if you fall for that, I'm sorry, but like that thing is like a demo, and maybe or a paid demo, maybe for some people, but I mean, everyone's gonna not. I guess not everyone will have PlayStation Plus, but a lot of people definitely will. Yeah, it was other than the shitty directing, it was a pretty good conference, all in all.
Yeah,
a
it's
lot of
just
stuff.
Not a lot of live. I mean, Assassin's Creed was the only live thing. And
Yeah,
then
naval combat looks.
Drive Club again was like,
continuous
here's
good.
the logo, now to Killzone. I'm like, okay.
The Minecraft guy again. Kyle took all the good stuff, but the Minecraft guys walking on for 4 seconds was really confusing. And then that whole idea of like exclusivity. So, Minecraft for Xbox One will not be on PlayStation 4 because it's called Minecraft for like what? What's going on?
Maybe it does something stupid with
Whatever.
the Kinect.
I mean, that game is unstoppable. I mean, I know we haven't talked about MPD in a long time, and I'll keep it really brief. But do you see the boxed copy of Minecraft was the second best-selling
it's
game?
insane. It's like, who doesn't have that game
And
yet?
is that by money? I always forget with the NPD. Is that by money or by volume? Because that's also a $20 game. It's by
That's
volume.
by
right?
volume,
Okay,
yeah.
because otherwise that would have been even triply insane. Because that's one-third the cost.
I hope Notch has built himself a castle, and like out of gold. I mean,
Out of
you
gold
know,
bricks.
yeah. I mean, he is he is the poster child for what is what you can do.
But I think that's why Sony is like so smart with like targeting the indies so much. They saw it pay off with Journey, and they know that there are great creative people out there that aren't interested in being on a huge team.
We're gonna get into that. There's definitely some crazy, like when you talk about the financials, it's nuts. But any final Gamescom thoughts? Show continues to be big. I think with the new consoles, it was probably a pretty big show this year.
The thing I like about Gamescom, and unfortunately I've never been, but it's just based on reports and conversations with people, is I think they have a model that E3 could follow, where you have 3 days of press, and then open it up to the public.
Well, no,
That seems
Well,
like-
no,
it's-
when we are gone, we've done our stuff,
Okay.
and then let people have their Friday, Saturday, Sunday to go and experience this
Oh, I see
and
what you're
bring
saying.
the press in. Bring the press in for the first 3 days. We see behind closed door stuff we can report on, but then also have some demos out there. Have them. I know we've got PAX, which is great. I just think it would be nice to have that level. I think over here,
No,
but I still
love the
hope
setup
I
of
get to Gamescom.
I've done that like 4 or 5 years now, and it's like, okay, we have the big, loud, crazy public area where there's all the excitement, and you get all the nice B-roll and stuff of booths. But then it's like, when we actually go and see games and interview developers, like, we're in completely quiet halls.
Oh, the business halls.
Yeah, people
That's
are
nice.
like serving us coffee. I have to keep grabbing my cameraman to stop getting coffee. Like, they'll get coffee like 6 times a day if I let them.
And then I'll have to pee so much.
But it's just a great environment to actually like experience the games and talk to people and not be shouting and pushing around people all the time.
It almost makes the jet lag bearable.
And it almost makes it so that like every day is like a press day.
Plus, it's Germany. The beer's fantastic. The food is great. They've got
Yep.
such a great. Germany is the birthplace of the doner kebab.
Thank you all very much for your time this evening. Please enjoy the rest of Gamescom.
Okay, kicked Ryan off the table for this next segment. We are joined by Ben the intern, and
I'm not an intern.
Yeah, he's actually been promoted.
was he now?
He's an
Not
official,
an intern.
official dude.
You're official, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I'll hire anybody here. And of course, Justin Spears here as well. And we are going to talk about HD games that have been remastered and stuff. First of all, let's save the worst till last. Let's talk about DuckTales first. Justin, you played DuckTales. I've played DuckTales.
Yeah.
We're also old enough to remember DuckTales the first time it came out.
Yeah. DuckTales, huh?
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones that's been kind of polarizing. The reviews have been all over the place. A bunch of people liked it, and then a bunch of people really just thought it was meh or crappy. I actually found it quite enjoyable. I mean, it was,
I think it's a fun game.
yeah, it was enough they did some tweaks. They give you more reason not to perhaps power run through. You could bounce back and forth and explore, and a little bit more perhaps than you were encouraged to do in the original version.
I think in the original, I guess the motivation is you explore the level if you just want to get money. You want to get possibly the better ending, which is super hard to get. There's only one ending here. But yeah, they added some sub-objectives like, okay, collect the pieces of this and collect the pieces of that. And they also give you a map, and you can see where they are on the map, which kind of...
The
It
game
kind of
felt
to me, I kind of wish they didn't have the map and that you could find things that were more optional and fun. But it does get you exploring the levels. And one of the good things about the NES DuckTales is the levels are open and there's secrets everywhere. You're always able to kind of pogo over the walls, find the secrets, jump in little places for diamonds, smash a statue that happens to have a ton of goodies inside it. So yeah, it's a fun game to just platform around. The pogo feel is really good. It's just fun to look around and try not to die.
It sounded like maybe the biggest complaint was the story stuff they added and how it kind of interrupted the flow of the levels sometimes. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I said something in my review. Maybe I said it has an unbalanced feel of a fan game, and I think maybe I could have put that a little more delicately. I think it's awesome that they have the voice cast in there. I think that's really cool. I don't think it's awesome when I grab the invincibility fruit and I run 2 feet and I happen to pick something up and then it stops it. It's a cutscene. I don't see how any normal person could not want to skip these cutscenes. they take so long, and in a 2D game, it just seems weird. Like they're doing it because they have all the voice cast, they've gotten them together. They're like, let's put all these little cutscenes within the levels. But really, it just makes it a little less fun. I can easily overlook that. I still gave the game a good score. I think it's a lot of fun. They did a good job with the remake. Looks pretty good. I think maybe I would have rather had 2D backgrounds and, the voice of Scrooge McDuck.
Really
As cool
rocking
as that
old
all
school.
is.
Well, apparently,
Yeah.
I think this is the last time he's voicing Scrooge McDuck, which so that was a nice touch. I think one of the things I found, I mean, the 8-bit version of DuckTales, it kicked my ass on a regular basis, and this one seems a little more forgiving. On medium level. I mean, it seems a little more forgiving, easier to plow through. I mean, I remember, I was pretty crap at it the first time round. Taking a while to get, even beyond that the initial very first level. But yeah, I breezed through this in about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I think part of it here is that the game actually saves. So you don't have to.
It is very
you don't
generous.
have to get through the whole game, and
Yeah.
when you get an extra life from Mrs. Beakley, you're like, oh, that's nice. And the NES game, you're like, okay, I have this life, I cannot die. I want to get treasure, but I can't die. It still has the same kind of feeling of I said it kind of feels like Duck Souls, because you have to, you get all your treasure, and if you don't beat the boss on that run, all that running around you did, down the toilet. So you got to go back into the level again. Find the secrets and the money again. I wish maybe they give you a better motivation to get a ton of money. And the NES, there was a secret ending where you had to really get a lot of cash. And there are I think, a few more fun secrets in the game.
I think the only motivation this time is to just again watch Scrooge McDuck dive into the money.
Yeah, you can unlock concept art, which I felt Scrooge would not really feel that that's a sound investment.
The
Like a
concept-
picture of Beagle Boys or something.
That actually did feel kind of redundant to me, and I know you've got to unlock, you unlock a bunch of concept art, and then it unlocks something else, and so on and so forth. But that felt more like ultra Disney fan service.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think they just want to give you some kind of motivation to play through the game. If you play through again, you keep your money, you can go to the stages, gradually increase your total, and then eventually you can unlock a different version of the theme song or a lost version of the theme song, which to me is not a great reward. But I think the coolest thing they did to modernize this, or to put their extra effort into it, there's a new last level that is really cool in Mount Vesuvius. It's more challenging than other areas of the game, I think. Some of the other areas in the game, it's like really easy at points, and then there's one or two tricky jumps where you have to maybe you have to take the lower platform, or you're guaranteed to take a hit.
Okay.
But yeah, the end level is cool. You crawl up a rope. It's way better than the NES, where you just basically jump on the rope and hold up. This has a kind of tricky platforming thing.
All right. Well, we gotta move on to Flashback. Flashback. I remember this on the Sega Genesis, the Mega Drive. Loved this game. I mean, it was just the way they captured the main character and the problems, and it was released by US Gold, I think, in the UK.
Did you play it on the Amiga?
No, I played it on the Sega Mega Drive.
Okay.
And it was great. It was very responsive. Combat worked well. Now, obviously, Ubisoft have re-released it and rehashed it. I've seen the trailer. It doesn't exactly tickle me. Ben, you've played it.
Yeah, I reviewed it. I gave it a really low score.
Do you need a hug?
No, I was disappointed because I've only played a little bit of the original Flashback. I've played maybe like an hour's worth, and I didn't play it in 1992, but it seemed like
Were you even born in '92?
I was born in '89. So the original Flashback, it seemed like a game that had a lot of ambition. Like even that intro now is pretty cool with the music, and he's like running away from the aliens, and the bike gets shot down. And the emphasis on animation, how it was really fluid. It just seemed like a game that was really shooting for a lot. And the remake feels the exact opposite. It feels like they're just kind of throwing in a lot of ideas that don't really work. I don't know if you've had a chance to play the remake at all.
I'm avoiding the remake because I actually have Flashback on the Sega Genesis.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
I think it might be a case of what it's like to look forward and then look backward.
Yeah.
The original game had some pretty, some big ideas, some cool ideas.
And they were
Make it
well
feel-
executed. They
Yeah,
were
yeah.
well executed. I mean, the thing.
I'm not the biggest fan of the original, though. I'll admit that I played it for a little bit. I'm like, this
Well,
game's kind of
I like the original.
it's difficult, right?
Yeah, the sequel,
It's
Another
fine.
World, was really quite underwhelming. Ryan's booing Another World.
The sequel was called Fade to Black.
Fade to Black. What was,
Yes.
what was another? No, Another World.
Another
was a
World was a
different
game
name.
kind of like
No, that I think that
Flashback.
wasn't. Is
it was
it?
similar, yeah.
All right. Okay. I said corrected, but yeah, Fade to Black. I'm sorry, because that was more full on 3D.
was polygonal, yep,
And, yeah,
yep.
and that's the one that really irked me. Ironically, I think games like Shadow Complex, which are the same price or even cheaper than Flashback. This Flashback remake is. Do the Flashback job better than what it seems this HD remake does.
Absolutely, and I think a good example of one of the things that Flashback does horribly is there are now upgrades in it, because every game needs upgrades. And for example, like if you put points into, okay, I want to increase my health, it doesn't tell you how much you're increasing your health by, and you don't even notice it. Like as I was playing the game, I was pumping all of my points into increased health because you can die pretty quickly. And I didn't really ever notice a tangible difference between when I didn't have any points into it and when I put a bunch of points into it. And so it felt completely tacked on and just like, why am I investing in this if I'm not seeing any benefit,
So basically, DuckTales, yes. Flashback, no. If you want to play a Flashback style game, either go and get an old school Genesis and find a cartridge, or Shadow Complex. Shadow Complex way more fun.
Yeah, I really like Shadow Complex.
But we do want more HD remakes.
Well, I don't know. I could do with that.
I'm no charity. I've got to make a living out here.
I'm back, and I am joined by Brandon Jones,
Hi.
who came out of review retirement for Disney Infinity.
Yeah,
Because this man cancels his vacation plans when Disney events come around.
I did.
Eagerly, willingly.
I was going to the Grand Canyon, and instead I went to D23 to get this guy.
I'll take care of that
No
one.
regrets.
So,
There you go.
both Marcus and Brandon have been playing Disney Infinity. I got my Mickey Mouse right here. This is a weird game.
Yeah.
It is a weird game from a lot of ways. I still think this game is going to be a nightmare for parents because I copy edited your review and I'm still confused. So this will put a character in, and then there's a little disc that will give you power ups and weird
Right.
stuff, and then there's the things that actually give you like the single player adventures, or not single player,
Yeah.
but the adventures. It is a kind of a marketing nightmare. Though I will say these, just like the Skylander figures, these are pretty nice.
I
all in
really
all.
like him, yeah, and that's actually one of the things that I didn't really get into in the review. We didn't shoot any footage of figures or anything, but something to be said for not only how well the figures are produced, but just the fact that figures are cool. Like, figures are cool. Like, a lot of people are frustrated because they're like, I don't want to have the stupid figure. I want the whole game to be digital. I don't want to have to interface with all this junk. But I like these figures. I think they're well made.
Well-
I've never not stopped liking figures. Like,
Just really quick, I'm just happy to see this guy because I was like, I like Disney too, but I mean, I was a little worried when everything was the 3D animated films
Right.
or what's that actor's name?
Johnny Depp.
Or a Johnny Depp vehicle.
Right.
Like, it's good to see like this guy's not being completely forgotten.
That is the exclusive D23 Fantasia Mickey, which actually has silver stars on it, which I don't have. So
eBay.
eBay.
but he'll be
They're
on sale
$1,200
in
on
January.
Yeah, $1,200 on eBay. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see if he
I
knows
am-
the difference.
Yeah,
With that money,
exactly.
you could almost buy all the other figures.
But you guys have both been playing it. I'm gonna shut up and just look at the time. You guys have your conversation. This is what I want to see.
Well, I think we're both in agreement that it's actually a bunch of fun. And I was one of the guys who never got sucked into Skylanders, and I'm a collector. I mean, I have my games room with all my Doctor Who toys and Star Wars and stuff like that, and you have a lot of that stuff as well. I mean,
Yeah.
we're no Jeremy Hoffmans,
No.
but
But
we
who
have
is?
we have our own collection foibles. But the thing I like about this is that there is a lot more to it than the Skylanders. For me, the problem with the first Skylanders game was the game itself was actually pretty underwhelming and kind of buggy. And with this one, you get the starter pack. You've got 3 characters. You've got one from Incredibles, one from Monsters U, and one from Pirates of the Caribbean, which gives you access to 3 game worlds right off the bat. So there's 3 relatively different game worlds. And then you've got the toy box on top of that, which is something we will talk about. I will say that the power disc thing is now an issue for me. I mean, I tweeted out on Wednesday that I'd ordered 10 packs of the power discs, $5 a pop. I dropped $50 on 10 packs, and there's supposed to be 2 discs inside, and you're supposed to have a 1 in 3 pack chance of an epic, and I ended up 6 of those packs were actually ones I already had, and 2 of the 6 packs were actually doubles. And that's obviously to encourage trading and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, apart from Brandon, I don't want to go and loiter around schoolyards at break time.
Right.
Show
I
me
think
your
it's-
Pokemons.
Yes.
You got any double epics?
I've got a Wreck-It Ralph for you, little boy.
I didn't even think about that. I'm so doing that on my lunch break. I just walk over to the
To the school.
nearest
Yeah.
elementary school, hang out with the
Amber
kids.
Alert.
Yeah, definitely Amber Alert. But I got to say that the quality of the game surprised me. Now, I think you and I disagree on which ones we enjoyed the most. I think
Everybody seems to. It's great. I saw one reviewer thought Monsters University was the best, which I thought was fun, but definitely was not my favorite.
Monsters U was actually my favorite.
Interesting.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's so to start off in the pack you got Monsters U, Pirates, and Incredibles, and then you can buy Cars and the Lone Ranger. And the Lone Ranger, bizarrely enough, is actually way more fun than the film.
Yeah, big time.
But I mean, what? So why is it that we get sucked into this stuff? Is it because it is the Disney stuff? And I'm not a huge Disney fan, but I do have a soft spot for the Incredibles, which I think is the most boring of the play sets, by the way.
Yeah, it's but they all play to specific styles. It's like you have the boat navigation in one game. Cars obviously is all racing stuff. So if you're really into that franchise, like that seems like an obvious buy. Yeah, I just thought the games were legitimately fun because it's really fast to go through quests, really fast to it's like some quests are literally like 5 seconds long. And it just has a really great pace to it. You just don't waste a lot of time going around the world.
You can complete the story sections of these play sets in about 2 hours each.
Yeah, about 2-3 hours, and it's kind of like something like Gone Home or like Brothers, where it's just like just when you're kind of done with it, it's over. It's just a great you don't really sit with these for.
But then
an
you go
extended period
back
of
to
time.
mine spins on
If
the
you
roulette
if you
machine.
if you're crazy and obsessive about it, but it's the
Like
same
you.
thing as discs. Like it's totally unnecessary unless you're just a nut and you have to have all this stuff.
And then the toy box thing is the cool kind of make your own Disney
Right.
adventure.
Yeah, you make your own world. For example, the Cars stuff. Once you've unlocked all the various pieces, and that's the thing. As you're progressing through the game, you find these little collectible pods, and you collect them, and you can unlock aspects of whichever game you're in into
Where
the
are
toy
you guys
box.
spending the most time in the game?
Playset so far, just
Yeah.
because I want to
Which
unlock
are the
all
which
the
are the
stuff.
adventures?
Yeah,
right?
just because I want to unlock all the stuff in the toy box. And then
But
when
then
I'm
are you
like,
going to
okay,
actually use it in the toy box,
Oh,
or is it just
definitely,
to
yeah.
have it? Is it the collecting mentality digitally?
Some of that is like there's some bits like like Pride Rock or the Cave of Wonders or especially because I'm Southern California boy, like all the Disneyland elements. Like I definitely
okay.
want to have that stuff. But there's a bunch of fun gizmos. It's interesting, like stuff like the Switch is something that's under lock and key. Like you technically have to like win that in the vault spin thing, and it's like the Switch is like one of the most fundamental tools that you'll need in the toy box.
What is it?
Just a switch. Just to, like I step on this button and make something happen. I can
Okay.
link it to something else. So that's an example of something you might want to try to get right off the bat because you'll definitely use it.
And some of the stuff is, I mean, it is kind of annoying. There are, it's not the game's far from perfect. The concept is far from perfect. I personally would like, for example, once I've completed the Lone Ranger, I would love to be able to take Mike Wazowski and drop him into the Lone Ranger playset, and
Right.
just, that would be a cool update that they could release, in my opinion, just to watch people freak out as this green eyeball with legs runs around this Wild West town, and see, some of the quests might, you can even repeat some of the repeatable quests, but I think that's the one place where I think they're missing a trick.
And Brandon, do you have any last? You've been into this for a while. Is there any big last wish for you that you'd like to see them add or support?
One thing that I'm concerned about is so you have Sorcerer Mickey who's not tied to any playset, so he can't play a playset. The only place he can level him up is in the toy box, and there are ways you can level up in the toy box, but it's like the playsets are experience extravaganzas. Like that's the
It
way to
takes a
really
long
power
time.
level a character.
But do you see once there is a Disney adventure that all the Mickey? I'm sorry. Once there's a Mickey adventure playset. Once there's a Mickey playset, maybe
Right.
all of the Mickeys will be valid.
Who knows? And that would be my idea that actually a friend of mine came up with, which is create a playset, create a single-player experience that does cater to all the toys. Something that's a little more than a pre-built toy box, which they do have. They do give you here's this Colby or the Western-themed town, and Mike Wazowski can walk around that. But something a little that has quests, something that you can actually use to power level.
So in the end, Infinity's pretty good though, huh?
It is pretty good.
It's
The potential is
legitimately fun.
immense. Toy Story's coming. Nightmare Before Christmas. Jack Skellington and the rest of those. That's going to be really cool. Some people I know have started finding Muppet characters in there.
Right.
So there's Muppets, and like I've said
Are we
before,
going to see Marvel and?
well, this is the thing. I would expect to see Marvel probably in time for the next generation version announcements, and then in 2015, Star Wars characters coming, and that's when you can kiss Skylanders goodbye.
And finally, we are joined by Rob Manuel,
Hey.
host of the Indie Game Manual, which is on GameTrailers every Tuesday,
Every Tuesday, yes.
where people can get their latest dose of indie game news and whatever. I don't know.
Games you need to be playing.
Is,
Yes.
is there a tagline?
I don't think we have a talent. We're too indie for that.
Was there ever a debate to spell Manuel like your last name?
No, I don't think there was. I actually didn't even come up with the name. It was several other people. They were like, "This is what we're calling it." And I was
Really?
like,
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Was that Jeremy?
No. It was Elise, and like I guess they went to lunch one day, and they were like, "This is what you're doing." I was like, "Okay, sure."
So I brought Rob on because there was a ton of indie talk
Yeah.
at Gamescom.
There was a ton of talk. There was a ton of announcements and a ton of like games that they were showing off.
And I mean, not to steal the thunder of what may be your next episode, but I'm just curious, like, what you thought was kind of the biggest kind of takeaways from the indie game scene from Gamescom.
I mean, honestly, there wasn't anything really shocking about the indie games coming out. Like, this is a lot of the stuff that I even talked about like a couple of weeks ago, where it was like that Microsoft is going to open the doors for indie games, and that Sony was always, going to push out more games. I mean, some of the games we didn't know that were coming out of Sony and so on and so forth. I think the Rapture game coming from that Chinese room, the fact that it's no longer going to PC, but now it's going to PS4 exclusive, I think was a big sort of shocker there. But other than that, I mean, they still haven't answered, like, how are they going to get these games out? They haven't answered, like, who are going to be the people that are going to be able to make these games. They haven't really answered the, how are people going to find the curation of these games on these systems? And I think that's something that they struggled with in the previous generation, and they might be struggling with it in this generation as well going forward.
I think that kind of leads to a bigger question, whereas I think at one point in the Sony press conference, they started to kind of define what an indie game is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like in the 90s when you went to a music store and
Right.
it was all alternative music. And it's
Right.
like everything's alternative music. It's not alternative. Is it how many people work on a game?
It's
It's not a real definition.
This is
anymore.
actually something we
we
are going to do a crossover.
We should.
We are going to do a crossover and discuss this.
The short answer is that sooner or later the term indie game will go away,
Well,
and I hope it does go away.
You brought up a good point though in distribution, and
Yeah.
because people are always saying like, "Oh, this is a great downloadable game," or how DLC has been kind of co-opted to mean a certain thing that it doesn't necessarily mean. But
Right.
then some people will counter that. Hey, guess what? Day one, you could have downloaded The Last of Us.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Any
That-
PC game ever
and that
in the
becomes
last
DLC.
5 years.
Well, let me throw out an example. In 1976, George Lucas considered himself an indie filmmaker when he was
People
making
still,
Star
I
Wars.
mean, people still pull up that fact for Star Wars. It's like the most highest-grossing indie film because it
Yeah.
wasn't from one of the major studios.
Of course.
Exactly. So I mean, it's just
But
a case of semantics.
my question,
Yeah.
well, but the question is, if to use that kind of model, I mean, this is the other thing is the financials. How many, 1,100 people are working on the Assassin's Creed title?
Right.
And when you can have, I mean, Charlie Murder just came out. That's roughly one person,
Two,
right?
husband
One and a
and
half?
wife. Yeah, husband and wife now.
Well, I mean, and then you look at, I know Gone Home was brought up, but that was a 4-person team.
Yeah.
They brought in a couple extra people for music and play testing.
Right, of course.
Core team. But then you look at who made Mark of the Ninja and Shank,
Klee.
and they're up to like 20 people, 15
They're,
people.
yeah, but they also have like they have different things going on. Like Don't Starve still has updates even now, even that the game has come out like for 3 or 4 months now. They still have like regular updates to their game, even changing their game as it goes along. It's quite remarkable what they're doing, and they're bringing up.
But are they an indie studio still?
Yeah, I mean,
Like-
it just once again, it's just like you're going to get into these gray areas where it's like, oh, how much help do you have to have from someone else? How much money do you have bringing in? How many people are you going to have on the thing?
And with the tools being, I mean, I've looked through Unity a little bit. I've never looked at like Unreal, but like with the tools and the resources, it is easier than ever.
Right.
And sorry, I'm jumping around here.
Sure,
but my
yeah.
main thesis is the reason you're seeing Microsoft. This is me being kind of cynical, but the reason you see Microsoft and Sony and whatnot, courting these guys is Assassin's Creed takes 1,100 people.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Was Alone was one dude, and he probably paid that British comedian to do the VO. I don't really know the whole story there, and he just said that they sold 700,000 copies.
That's completely true.
Who's the guy who did Gunpoint?
That
Ex-games journalist.
Yeah, ex-game journalist.
He quit his job.
Yeah.
He's a full-time game developer now.
That's what he does. Once again, I think Sony actually
profit return's insane.
Yeah, exactly. Sony
It makes me
actually
worried.
pointed at this like earlier. There was an interview with one of the actually it was a talk. It was a talk with one of the guys from Sony, and they were saying like, look, what you believe is indie now used to be just the mainstay like years ago, like when we were making PS1 games, when we were even like PS2 games. It was just like Parappa the Rappa was maybe like 4 or 5 people like putting together, and that was a huge hit for them. And that's what people are looking for. They're looking for these huge hits with these small companies, and they're saying that the hardware, the architecture behind the Xbox One for the PS4 is so much easier now for people to deal with than the 360 and the PS3, that you can have these small teams and actually make these great games.
Well, let's go back 30 years.
Oh yeah.
When I was playing Sinclair Spectrum stuff, Commodore 64 stuff, when that was not 1,100 people, it was not 20 people, it was 2 or 3 guys who then put their stuff on a cassette and put an ad in the back of Sinclair User magazine that you send off £3 for. Or let's even go back 5 to 7 years before that, when we're looking at Pong and we're looking at Space Invaders.
Atari 2600. All of those games were made by 1 to maybe 2 people.
Yeah.
You can
E.T.
name them.
was done by one guy
Howard
in 6 weeks.
Shaw,
Oh.
something.
Horrible.
I think he also
man.
did Yar's Revenge. Yeah, and those guys were paid $22,000 in 1980s money, which wasn't bad, but also wasn't good, and they all realized that they were getting fucked over, and they go and formed Activision.
Right.
And that's what happened back then. So it is kind of weird. It is full circle, except for that kind of breaking out. They're actually being absorbed back in.
Right, and that's what they're looking for. They want these like really great games. They're looking for these like these games that will hit smaller markets, but will hit them really hard. Like Gone Home isn't necessarily a game for everyone, but if you are someone who's looking for something that's very rich in story and you're willing to make your way through it, like it's an incredible experience.
Perfect for completionists.
Exactly.
I mean, it is. It's one of those completionists.
You see the speedruns?
I
I can't believe this game
I
has
am not
speed
watching
runs.
the speedruns because I mean,
It's
I just want to
hilarious.
find everything for myself. On that game.
Completely. But it's once again, it's very fun that people can go into this game and get like so many different things out of it. I've talked to different people where they've had bits and pieces of the story. Like the main story is always the same, but like what happened to the mother, what's happening to the father, like bits and pieces they pick up from Oscar as well. It's like, hey, did you happen to check this out? Did you happen to know about
So
this?
you find yourself filling in your own gap, the gaps
Exactly.
yourself, and that's the beauty of the game. And
that's the beauty for a lot of those games. I think Any Chamber, as soon as that came out, people started doing speed runs.
It's weird the markets that come out, or
where
like,
they
not
would
markets,
they
but
would
the people
try
that
to
come out
like
of
break bits and
the warm work
pieces
for those.
of the game in order to get over this puzzle or to get over this thing, and it was just like, wow, this is amazing. This is absolutely fantastic that people are getting so much out of it, and the fact that they're actually gathering around, having these water cooler experiences where you do talk to someone else. Because after playing Gone Home, I was like, fuck, I gotta talk to someone. I gotta have a moment where it's like, okay, let's compare notes. Let's see what did you find versus what did I find? Did you happen to see this? Did you happen to see this?
Now, one last quick question. So I'm a paranoid Big Brother guy.
Of course.
And what is the sinister thing looming with Sony and Microsoft being so supportive of indie games? I think it's great, but there's some part of me that's a little reserved. But we are seeing Binding of Isaac with all of its weird scatological biblical stuff that Nintendo killed. Hey, it's going to be there. Obviously, Hotline Miami 2 is highly controversial right now.
Yeah, completely.
And they're behind it. So there is this support for controversial things if there's money to be made. But I'm just curious, is there any sort of danger with Microsoft and Sony being courting so heavily with the indies at this point?
Well, people are very concerned that, especially with the indies, that they're already looking at like only bringing in like certain people. That they're being like, okay, we'll be open. You can fill out the form online, but what we're going to do is we're going to pick and choose who we want out of that form. We're going to make you jump through these certain hoops in order to get like sort of the games that we want for what we consider like what we want to push. We're going to put those towards the top and sort of bury everything underneath. So you may have 100 games in your catalog, but you're only pushing like 4 or 5
So
games
it's the tragedy of what Xbox Live Indie Games was.
Exactly. I mean,
I can see
but
that.
that's what people are afraid of. Yet we haven't seen that. We haven't seen Xbox. Xbox now has a sort of, I guess, an indie guy that they have who's going to come in and sort of like, take control of all this stuff going forward. Sony has been very open about all their stuff going forward, but yet, once again, no one's talked about curation. No one's talking about who gets to come in. No one's talking about like how is this all going to come together.
Well, I'm sure when we do all of our lead up stuff, we'll come ping you for some thoughts on the indie outlook for the next gen stuff.
Anytime.
And as always, I'm sure you're going to give some even more insight on Indie Game Manual next Tuesday.
Yes.
On what happened and maybe an update on Shelter. I think that's coming out soon.
Yeah, Shelter
Badger
is
game.
the Badger game.
It's
the
really good.
Mother Badger.
I
Yes.
don't know if it's really good. It looks really good.
It's actually really fun. You get connected to these small little badgers following you around very quickly.
And then hawks take them away.
Oh my gosh.
Is there a Honey Badger expansion?
No, they didn't give a shit about that.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today, Marcus.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
You will not be here next week.
No, I'm
so
going
that
to
will
be paxing.
yeah
We'll
have
be
fun,
Yeah,
man.
he's going to be up there
I'll
too.
be at PAX as well. I'm gonna hit all the indie mega booths
Represent.
games and the PAX 10s.
Awesome.
And I'm
Well,
just going to hit people.
Nice.
that's probably true. Okay. Hi, everybody.